Let's move on to the fantastic Mr. Fox, which came out in 2019, and I love this movie so much.
This is a great animated film.
So this is his first stop-motion film. This film is actually based on a children's book by Roald Dahl, a British novelist, and was the first book that Wes Anderson actually ever owned. And Noah Baumbach actually helped co-write the screenplay with him. And Baumbach's an awesome director. He just did Marriage Story, if you've seen that on Netflix. This movie's hysterical, clever, visually stunning. It's about a fox who breaks a promise to his wife. The fox, played by George Clooney. The wife is Meryl Streep. And raises the farms of their human neighbors, Bogus, Buns, and Bean, giving into his animal instincts endangers not only his marriage, but also the lives of his family and their animal friends. When the farmers force Mr. Fox and company deep underground, he has to resort to his natural craftiness.
This is a groundbreaking film, both with animation, but with the sound design of this movie. So typically, for an animated film or a stop-motion film, the actors record their dialogue in studios with a microphone right in front of their face. Then they're in a soundproof studio, and the audio and dialogue always sounds perfect. And for me, watching animated films, it never feels quite right. You know what I mean? It doesn't sound quite right.
Yeah, because Kung Fu Panda, it's a panda on a mountain, but his audio is perfect.
Yeah, so for this film, Wes Anderson decided to record the actors' dialogue in environments and settings that would match the scenes of the movie. So if a character is underground speaking, he had them go into the basement of a house to record the dialogue, or they went into an attic to record dialogue, and they went into a farmhouse to record dialogue. Or if a character is outside, he had his actors record in a forest or out in a field. So you can actually, it sounds like it matches the environment of the scene. And for this, it makes the realism of the stop motion even more realistic and really puts you there. It makes it seem like these are actual real things.
And we saw a filmmaker start to do this, like specifically with Rango, where they would basically film the audio and kind of act it out outside or whatever set they're on.
Yeah, so with Rango, they actually filmed the actual movie with the actors, which is really cool.
And again, this is a stop motion film, which meticulously takes a long time to film. And at the same time, there were other stop motion films coming out, like Coraline came out, but this is different because it doesn't look perfectly smooth like Coraline, those other stop-motion films, because Wes purposely shot this digitally in 12 frames per second so that you know that it's stop-motion graphics and animation, so you can tell. And like his other movies, the camera plays a part as a character.
Yeah, so the movement is a little choppy, but he does it on purpose. But also, what I love about this is the materials that they use to make the characters and the sets are actual real materials. He was adamant that if there are stones in the shot, they have to be real stones, and all the leaves are real leaves, and the grass is real grass, and the fur of the animals is actual real fox fur. So he used real materials from the earth to create the sets and characters, which gives it a realistic tangibility that you've never seen in a film before.
Yeah, and there's just one CGI shot was used, one scene, and it's the flooding of the Flint mine. Other than that, every single shot, every prop, every piece of wardrobe, character, made by hand, used for stop-motion filmmaking. Even the smoke is real. They use cotton balls for that, and I think the fire is pieces of wax candle cut up.
That's funny.
And this movie is composed of almost 56,000 shots, and for example, an 18-second clip would take about 8 days to make, so this took a long time to make. And the color scheme of this movie is primarily autumn colors, so like a lot of yellows, oranges, browns, with virtually no green or blue. However, Christopherson, his blue-colored wardrobe was intentional as a way to emphasize him being an outsider.
Ash is always so jealous of him, and Christopherson is like amazing at everything, and everyone loves him. He doesn't seem to try to do anything. People just gravitate towards him, and it always makes Ash so jealous.
Well, a big theme in this film is accepting who you are and accepting your identity. And Ash, his father doesn't seem to accept Ash for who he is, because his father wants him to be like him, like great at sports, a great athlete, a great bandit. He wants him to be taller, and Ash is a very short guy, even a short little fox. But his cousin seems to be everything, and even his gym teacher is, when he sees Christopherson play the game, he's like, wow, he really is your father's nephew. This movie, I think this might be my favorite Wes Anderson movie, and it's freaking hysterical. Like, the one-liners in this movie drive me crazy. It's so funny.
It's so funny, and I love So the animals they're very civilized and they're very humanistic in how they behave. But then also he shows the animalistic side of them. So for example, like when Mr. Fox is about to eat his breakfast, he's very polite to his wife and they have a nice little conversation. Then he goes to his plate and he just ravages it like a monster, like an animal would. And then there's that argument between him and the other animal, and they start from arguing and then they start growling at each other. And it's just like he shows like the animal side of them too, which is so fun.
Yeah, and Mr. Fox, played by George Clooney, is obviously sly like a fox. His personality is eccentric and hysterical. He's always trying to control every situation he's in, but he hides his true intentions usually with compliments and the illusion of choices for other characters. For example, multiple times he'll present his wife with a decision like, should we do this or that? But he's already made up the decision of what he's going to do and what he wants to do. So it's really just an illusion that she has a choice in what they're about to go through. And then he masks his slyness with compliments and will tell her how beautiful she is despite not letting her really have a choice in the decision he's about to make.
Yeah, and also he's obsessed with improving his life because he doesn't fully realize that he has everything he needs at home, and which is what drives him to get the new home inside the tree, which he knows is dangerous, and people have told him not to move there because it was too dangerous for him to be there. But he's sick of. He said he's sick of living in a hole, but his wife loves the hole. It's their home, but he just thinks that things can be better and things should be better because he doesn't fully grasp the idea that his life is full the way it is.
Yeah, it kind of links to the ending with the Canis Lupus scene where throughout the film he talks about the wolf and how he has a phobia for wolves. But is it really he has a phobia for wolf? Or he has a phobia of being a wild animal because the wolf doesn't wear clothing. The wolf is quiet. He doesn't really speak English like the animals do and talk. And Mr. Fox, he is debating with being civilized. He wants like a new tree, a new home, a house, rather than living in a hole like a fox is supposed to do. And he wears a suit and tie, and he kind of tries to connect to the wolf at the end of the film when he like raises his fist and the wolf raises his fist back. But so like, does Mr. Fox really have a phobia of wolves, or is it a phobia of being a wild animal and being his true nature?
By that time in the film, he's finally realized that he needs to be a father more than anything, which he hasn't been. He needs to be a father and a husband.
One of my favorite shots in this film is when Ash and Mr. Fox are in the sewer talking, and Ash is staring down, and this is when the shot that Stanley Kubrick made famous is the Kubrick stare, and it's like a technique he developed where he will just have like an intimidating or unsettling point of view POV shot of a character, like just staring basically off into the like almost like directly off camera.
Yeah, like think of Jack Torrance in The Shining.
Jack Torrance in The Shining, and then Full Metal Jacket with the guy in the bathroom, and he does that with Christopherson, and it just drives me crazy. It's fucking hysterical.
For parents and for kids, like, there's no other animated film like this because it has the Wes Anderson's tone and style and story and dialogue. And I think it's something fun for kids to watch because it's so unique. They can see a new way to tell a story rather than the same old animated Pixar, Disney, DreamWorks movie. They're all pretty much the same. This is wholly unique and a fun experience, I think.
Yeah, and again, we're talking about a theme where it's about accepting your identity and who you are, specifically with Ash's character, who's not really like a fox and not what he thinks his father wants out of a son, but he ends up, because of his physical status and his traits, he ends up saving the day twice towards the end of the movie because he's little. I can fit through there.
Little.
You know why? Because I'm little. And so he ends up saving the day because of who he is, and he accepts who he is. And even Christopherson doesn't even want to be who he is with the athlete and everything.
But even Mr. Fox accepts who he is. He's not going to... He finally accepts that, like, I belong in my home and I have to take care of my home.
Yeah, and there's an imperfect ending to this film, which again is important because most animated films just have a great, happy Hollywood ending, but it's important for not only kids but adults to see that it's okay to admit defeat and accept ourselves for who we are and not the unrealistic image who we think we want to be or should be.
Yeah, sometimes we fail and sometimes we make mistakes. That's part of life.
And those themes are reinforced at the end of the film in the supermarket where Mr. Fox gives that toast and he calls all the animals around him the 5.5 most wonderful wild animals I've ever met. So now they finally accept who they are. Overall, I adore this film. It's hysterical, beautifully filmed, beautifully shot. It's a blast, great characters, great writing, and it's so fun to see stop motion in such a high quality way and different than like big budget box office stop motion or animated films.
Yeah, it's probably one of, if not the most unique animated film you'll see in the last decade.